All right, I'm trying to make sure I'm live. Not sure if I am yet. Let me just double check. Got a couple of things going on here. Okay. Looks like something weird is going on. Sorry about that. Let me just make sure. If you guys are on right now, thank you for your patience. I'm still learning this process right here. And hopefully I can get you guys on here soon and very soon. Just a minute. If you are watching me live, say hello. I know I am broadcasting somewhere, but I just want to make sure I'm where I need to be. So tell me hello and tell me where you're watching from. And if you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook. So if you're watching on YouTube, hello. My name is Marina with Artworthy Life, and I teach Christ-centered art journaling that gets you into God's Word every day. And I am in the process of working on broadcasting also to Instagram for those of you guys that want to watch from Instagram, because it looks like today we're having some problems on Facebook. I'm not sure what the deal is. Looks like I'm having trouble also on Instagram. So I'm not sure if that's like an issue there as well, or if that's just something. Okay, Anita's on Facebook. Am I broadcasting to Facebook? Wow, really? Am I live on Facebook? This is amazing. It looks like, Anita, it looks like you're watching from YouTube. Or do you happen to be in the link through YouTube? Because my Facebook is not working properly. Okay, and I did look that up, and it looks like it's an issue that's like across the board. So today is a doodle a day, guys. I'm so glad you're on. If you are watching, I don't know what's going on with Instagram, so I'm not able to get Instagram up for some reason. I'm going to give it one more shot, and then if not, we're just going to keep going on YouTube. So let me just see. Yeah, I don't know. It just gives me network connection problem. And I think it might be the same problem that Facebook is having right now. So I don't know exactly what's going on. Let's see if I can get it one more time. Worth a shot, right? And I'm going live on Instagram so that I can have some other live, but I don't see it happening. All right, so YouTube is where it's gonna happen. And so I'm just gonna say welcome to you. Hi, Anita, thanks for watching. This is day 3 of the Doodle a Day. And Anita, since you are there, if you wanna share the link to YouTube to anybody else, go ahead and do that. I did send out an email to let people know something weird is going on, so I'm gonna be live, but I also have the link to let you guys know that I'm live on Facebook, or that I'm live on YouTube, but really weird that it's not happening like it should be. Alrighty, but let's go ahead and get into it. I want to go ahead and read some scripture to get us started on the right foot. I think we left off at the beginning of the Beatitudes, so let me go find my place. It's been a little bit of an interesting morning trying to figure out what is happening on the social media world. So it's been really wild. But I'm going to go ahead and start with, make sure I'm in the right spot. Oh, and I want to ask you guys, if you were having any issues on Facebook, can you tell me if yours was even loading at all? And we can kind of see if it was just an issue on regionally or what. So I'm going to go ahead and, sorry, I'm checking a few things online and on here, and I think I'm good to go streaming here. Anita says she guesses her Facebook wasn't working today, so she might be on YouTube. Yeah, you're on YouTube according to my end. It looks like you're on YouTube. It looks like somebody else is watching too. Can you go ahead and say hello? I'd love to know how you are watching today, if you're on YouTube or Facebook or something else, because apparently we were having some issues on Facebook. I don't know what's going on. So we ended in the middle of the Beatitudes, and I want to read some scripture to get us started on the right foot. Always a good place to start before we get into our doodle today, and then we'll get started right away on the doodle. We're going to start in Matthew chapter 5, verse 7. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward in heaven, for so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. Alrighty, so that's a great place to start. I mean, don't we feel like a lot of times we're under some persecution? It's just amazing that we have the freedoms that we do in some places, but some places don't even have those. So let's be grateful for what we do have and rejoice in that. Hi, Bonnie. I'm so glad you're here. She says she found me here and she can't get on Facebook. So Bonnie, I think that's not just a problem on your end. I Googled it and I looked it up and did a few things, and it looks like Facebook, like globally, is having a problem. So they're like not there today. Anita says hers isn't working. Yeah. So, Bonnie, can you tell me how you found out I was on YouTube? Did you have YouTube up, or did you get my email this morning? I sent out an email to try to tell people. I'm still not able to get live on Instagram, so not sure what's going on, but I'm so glad YouTube is working. All righty. If you do not have the tracer for this little truck, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the comments because I want you guys to have it. And I think it's actually in the description of this video. So you can click and download that tracer, but I wanted to make sure that as I'm live, it comes up to you guys. So I'm going to give you guys a link. Okay. Oh, Bonnie says she got my email. Yes. Oh, good, good, good. I'm so glad. I sent that out last minute because I was finding all of these issues going on. But here's the link in the comments. You can see my name right there. Click that link and you can get the downloadable tracer. And I know it's coming to you guys late, but I just didn't have the technology up because of whatever's going on with Facebook today. Okay, so today is a really, really fun doodle, though. I'm so glad we can still do it. And what I'm doing for our Doodle a Day, as I mentioned on Saturday, is sticking with a certain palette. Basically, that means I don't go outside of certain colors, and that will make all of our doodles look kind of cohesive together. So let me go ahead and show you guys. Let me grab that real quick. Go ahead and show you guys what we have so far. Here's yesterday's doodle. And as I mentioned, I'm not live on Sundays, but I will post a doodle that you guys can follow. And here's another doodle. So here's what we have so far. What I'm wanting to do today is incorporate another color that's not in these first two, and that's going to be teal. I'd like to have a little bit of teal in our October palette. And so I'm going to incorporate that color as we go, and you will see that. So, but first off, like I said, make sure you have your cardstock, watercolor paper, and it's cut to 2 inches by 2 inches. And then you want to have your tracer available. Now, my tracer may be just a touch too big, actually, even for mine, but we'll make it squish. We'll make it fit. It'll be good. Okay, so I'm going to put my tracer on with my carbon paper. Sometimes I draw the tracer a little bigger and then shrink it down for you guys. But I think it's going to fit. Yeah, it fits. Okay, so I'm going to put this graphite paper or carbon paper over the top and just kind of center up the truck in the middle of the page. And you'll notice my little truck has a bunch of pumpkins in it. Super cute. If you don't have your tracer already and you're just jumping on, go ahead and click the link in the description of this video, or I just put it in the comments. Bonnie and Anita, can you tell me if you can see that link and if it's working, being in the comments there? Okay, and then all we do is we just trace it down onto the page. Super easy, not really critically freehanding kind of stuff. You just kind of are tracing. And all these little pumpkins are really irregular in shape. So if you're like, I'm not a good tracer, it's okay. They're, what is a pumpkin? A pumpkin is that considered a gourd? No, it's not a gourd. What's it called? I don't remember. Anyway, it's a natural thing. It's like a vegetable, but not a vegetable. Anyway, my brain is so fried this morning from trying to figure out the technology. Help me out, y'all. Anyway, the point is it's a pumpkin. Pumpkins are irregular in shape. and that is why they are so forgiving when you paint them. So I think it's wonderful to paint all kinds of fruits and veg because they can be slightly off and nobody cares. Okay, so we're just tracing around all these little lines, getting this truck traced out. Make sure you get the windows. Sometimes I forget windows. Just get that truck all the way traced out. And then the little tires, and that's about it. So I'm gonna peek, make sure I've got it all traced, and I do. So there's my little truck. I know it's hard to see, just because the shadow is always hard to see. So just check that out. I see somebody else is watching. If you haven't said hello already, please go ahead and say hi and tell me where you're watching from, and tell me if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. I'm pretty sure I can't get to Facebook right now, so I'm not sure if Facebook's just completely down for the count or what. But I'm going to zoom in just a little bit with this camera so you guys can see a little closer. And we're going to squish down like that. There we go. I know the tracer doesn't show super well just because of the light. But as I start painting, you will see as I go. But you can see that shadow right there. That's the truck traced out and ready to go. So, whoops, let me make sure that's tight so it stays up. I'm going to go ahead and pull some colors over into my palette, which I left up here. Let me grab that real quick. Okay, so here's my little palette if you guys haven't seen it before. Oh, Mom is watching on YouTube. Okay, that's how I've got 3 viewers right now. Awesome, I'm so glad. So what's happening is we're going to use some of the colors that we've already used prior on our last 2 doodles, but I'm going to incorporate a few more colors. Well, I shouldn't say a few more. I'm going to incorporate one more color today in particular. And that's going to be teal, like I mentioned earlier. And so what we're doing is we're going to make the truck itself like a turquoisey teal color. And then as we go throughout the month, we will incorporate that color into some other paintings, and that will make kind of a cohesive look. Anita says I can see the link, but when I go to the link, it kicks me off the live, so I will watch the live and work on it after. Oh, okay. Yeah, so that is probably because it's taking you to your web page. So yeah, Alrighty, I'm gonna grab my small brushes. Again, I have these 3 small brushes, very tiny little brushes. And we're just gonna get started right into the truck first. Now the pumpkins, the pumpkins are gonna be mostly orange because we want to keep that color in there. But we're going to start with the truck because it's a little bit lighter of a color. So bear with me as I'm trying to make sure you guys can see everything. Still working with technology. Alrighty, here we go. I'm going to grab my light teal. Now, I use a palette called Como Rebi, and I'm going to put that up here on the screen. Actually, that one has the wrong name. So I'm going to put Como Rebi by Mozart Art. And I'm just going to post that here so you guys can see. These are the supplies I'm using. And then I do have a brush. I do have brushes that are not my Hobby Lobby Masters Touch watercolor brushes, but I like to use a variety. So that's the one I mainly use. All right, so we're going to start with Azurite Blue. If you don't have this palette, just grab whatever the teal blue is closest to yours, and we're going to water it down quite a bit. I'm going to water that down. And the reason we water it down is so that we can add layers. And I'm going to use clean water. I have 2 jars of water with me at all times, and that allows me to always have clean water available while I'm painting. So we're just going to put a good quick layer of blue, which is kind of a teal blue, down on the page. Oops, running into my mixing palette. And I'm leaving white space here and there. So like a little bit of white space around the fender, kind of like little highlights on the fender. Just all over, just kind of some white space all over to make this not fully colored in. I don't really want it fully colored in, and you guys will notice that as we go throughout the doodle a day that I like to leave white space. It's a big deal for me. I like to do that a lot. So what that does is it just makes your painting look a lot less like kind of rigid. And I'm noticing that it's still kind of bright for you guys, so I'm going to come this way a little bit. See if you guys can see. All right, that looks a little better. Maybe not quite so bright. I'm also going to turn my camera a little bit that way so that it shows. Right, I think that's working a little bit better for you guys. Thanks for being patient as we're still working on kind of the details and the technology as we get started on this challenge, the Doodle Day challenge. I'm going to use a piece of paper and just put a shadow on my thing. Hey, that might work. Ta-da! You know, you work with what you got, and that works really well. Okay, whatever. We'll do that. Okay, let me see if this will stay. If I just like, I don't know. Do you guys? Yeah, I guess it's not really. Oh, there we go. That works. You guys can see that, right? This is the strangest thing. It's like most of the time you would be concerned that it's not bright enough, but actually we're concerned because it's too bright. Bonnie, can you still see right now? Is that okay? Okay, we're putting really light blue on. All right, we're just going to let that layer dry. What you want to have next to you also is a watercolor cloth. In the Artworthy Journal Club, I give these to brand new members. So Bonnie, as a brand new member, you're going to get another one of these. I know you were a brand new member before and you're a returning member, but you're going to get another one of these in your package because you joined up again. I'm so excited. And so this is called a watercolor cloth, and I love to have it nearby because it's number one, it's cute. Number two, it's perfect for drying off your brushes. Ours are like a cotton linen blend type thing. Alrighty, so I'm going to grab some orange paint, and this one's going to be number 10 orange and a little bit of the brilliant yellow to kind of warm it up a little. And that's, would you guys like to see what colors I'm mixing up? Maybe if I stick them over here. Because I'm so close, it's hard to show you guys kind of the colors I'm using. But I like for you guys to be able to see when I'm mixing colors. I think that's really valuable. How about that? You can kind of see there. All right, here's a little bit. So this is the color I'm mixing up, super light orange. And then we're going to start filling in these little pumpkins. So let's paint in these little guys in the back. And we're going to vary the colors on the pumpkins because they are just like one big pile of pumpkins. If we make them all exactly the same color, they're going to blob together, and that's no good. So just kind of being careful as we paint to, you know, differentiate the different pumpkins from each other. And I am actually leaving little white spaces on the pumpkins intentionally. And mostly I'm leaving them where the ridges of the pumpkins are. So I don't know if you guys can tell that, but there's a little ridge on this pumpkin here, and I left a little bit there. So I don't want to paint in the other colors. Bonnie says, I'm so excited. Yay. Oh, good, good. I'm so glad. So we're going to jump around here. As you paint with watercolor, it can, some people can get frustrated because, you know, you're waiting for things to dry. And I actually almost never have that problem because I constantly move. I just constantly move to a different part of the painting and come back when the other one is dry. So now we're going to move to the tires, and I'm going to add some gray. And the tires are probably, you know, if it was a real truck, they would be like real good, real dark black. But if I look at my other doodles, I don't have a ton of real dark colors. So I'm not going to go super harsh black. I'll go darker, but I'm not going to go super harsh black. So I'm going to just add a layer of gray to start with. And then as we go, I might add a little bit more as we go. All right, coming back to the blue. So now we're adding another layer of that same, and this is almost straight azurite blue. I've got a little bit of, maybe just a little bit of green added to it. You can grab whatever green you have, but here's my azurite blue. And it's real bright, so I have a little bit of yellow in my palette here, so I'm kind of like making it less less of a teal, or less of a turquoise and more of a teal. And then I'm going to water it down. I want it watered down because I don't want to put a giant dark layer of color on my painting. So just starting with small amounts of color as you go is going to really help. Okay, we got some highlights going on here too, so I don't want to cover those up. So just coming around and basically just act like you're really bad at coloring things in. You know, just come up underneath it and around it and leave space behind. Don't make it colored in perfectly. So see how I'm leaving space around the edges, little highlights here and there, leaving some space in between the fender and the bed of the truck. And then even coming back here on the truck, leave a space where the door kind of goes. And that door is going to transition into the hood right there. So just following all those little lines. And you want to be like intentional about where you're putting the color, but just know that you don't want everything colored in perfectly. If you were doing something more realistic, you could do that, but you don't really need to do that. Honest, painting this small, it's going to look great either way. Okay, I'm going to actually grab some of this rusty orange color, and that is crimson mixed with orange and brown. I just have some left over in my palette. And I'm going to make sure it's a little bit more orange. But basically, I'm making a little bit redder of an orange to use for my little pumpkins. And I'm going to water it down. So again, this is crimson and brown and orange. And those are number 17, 10, and 52 in the palette. And let me go ahead and drop this down so it's not in your way. I'm going to hide that. So we're just going to paint in a few of the other pumpkins, a slightly darker orange, and see how I'm leaving those white spaces, a little bit of white space, not a ton, and a little bit of white space here and there. We're just kind of painting in those big shapes of pumpkins. And again, I'm making all these pumpkins orange. I love to paint turquoise pumpkins, but for painting this small, you know, it's better for them probably to be all the same color for the most part. All right, now we're coming back, layering, layering, layering. Going to the black again. So I'm just grabbing my black out of my palette and I water it down so that it's more of like a gray color. And I'm going to come over here on my tires and add some shape. So here's my tires, and I want to make sure that the front of them looks a little different from the back of them. So you see how I'm adding kind of an edge to them like that. So you can see there's a front and a side on each of those little tires. And I'm going to come in here and do some light gray kind of in the middle there. Water that down a little bit. Come around this way. Okay, so that's really just, it's so small that it doesn't have to be particular, and we're just kind of getting the idea of the tires down. Now we also have a little bumper here, and I'm just going to make that the same color as the tires, only maybe just a little bit lighter. And we also have a running board over here, so I'm going to paint that in as well in that same gray color. See that running board? You see how I barely touched that, and it just, there we go. There's the running board. It doesn't have to be very, very detailed. Now I'm going to switch brushes because I'm going to paint smaller. I love, love, love the challenge of painting small. As you guys can tell, I really like it. So the next brush I'm going to use is my number 2 liner brush. And here's the size it is. You can just kind of compare it to what you maybe already have on hand. Here's what it looks like. And it's by Master's Touch. It came in a set of 4. So I'm going to use that for the next couple of layers. Coming back to the teal that we have. I like having a palette I can spin so I can come back to the colors for you guys. So yeah, that just kind of that in between teal and turquoise, leaning a little bit more toward the greenish color. And we're going to start adding a little bit more shadow. So think about where the shadows are going to hit. We're going to have some by the door panel here, kind of on the back of the truck there. And you can kind of wing it, but You know, basically add layers, but don't cover up everything you've already done. Add a little bit on this door panel here, kind of shape out that door actually. I'm gonna help draw out where the bottom of the truck is, kind of do that. And I'm gonna come back on the back of the fender here. Like that. And I'm not going to get real detailed with this shading because it is so small that it doesn't matter as much. But, you know, just kind of fill it in where you think, okay, there might be a shadow there. Definitely by the edges of the fender, there's going to be a little bit more shadow. Down in the little creases and things where the truck is shaped, where the shape of the truck is. And I put little shadows there. And then we definitely want to do some shading up and around the detail on the back of the truck. That's going to define the back of that truck a little bit more. We can act like we have some little extra indentation and stuff in the truck back here. And if you have a picture of a real truck that you want to follow along with, that'll help a lot, especially with lighting, being able to see where the shadows fall. And now I'm just going to keep going with the same color. And as the teal starts to dry, I'm just going to come in a little bit darker and a little bit darker around here. And you can keep going with this. A lot of times you'll hear me say, oh, I got to quit while I'm ahead, because you can just keep adding layers and adding layers. I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. This is my teeny tiny liner brush. Here's how big it is compared to my hands. It's by Liquitex and it says size 0 liner, but I just hold it up so you guys can compare it to what you already have on hand. And if you don't want to use a liner brush, you can also just use a very fine tip micron pen at this point. Because at this point, I'm just going to grab some of this teal. And here's the teal I'm using. It's that same color we were using earlier, only I'm making sure it's nice and pigmented because I don't want to be chasing a puddle of water around. So basically, I'm mixing up a little spot of it that's really, it's more sticky, it's less wet, and that basically just lets me draw with it a little easier. And I'm going to outline the edges of this truck. Not a perfect outline, but just enough to give the truck more shape. And that's really important for helping your eye see the shape of things, even though things aren't actually outlined in person. If you look at photos of things, a lot of times the light's hitting it so that it creates almost like a little halo outline around things. So giving it a nice little edge will help our eyes see the shape a little better. That's kind of nice. And it'll just make the whole thing look a little bit more finished. So I'm just using this liner brush to do that all along the edges. You don't have to do this on every edge. I'm just looking and seeing any of the edges that don't look crisp enough to me. I'm going to use that technique to kind of draw out the shape a little bit better. And maybe I don't want the shape to be super particular in some areas, and that's also okay. If you just want to leave it kind of a little blob, an idea of a shape, that's okay too. And some of these ones in the background, I'm not going to worry about as much. But these ones in the front, I'm going to give them a little bit more shape. So it's like, oh yeah, that's definitely a fender. And I can see that shape. I'm actually going to add a little bit of black to my palette here as I'm getting a little bit more detailed, and that's going to let me go a little bit darker in some of this detail, especially up here under the fender here. I want to be able to actually show some shadow kind of around here, maybe in the front of the fender over here, in the front of the fender over here, anywhere I want a little bit more happening. And of course, I've got a window here that's just looking straight through the truck. That's like not exactly realistic for it to just be white back there. So I might do something with that later, but I'll wait till the end to see if it needs it. Okay, and then just right up under these edges where the pumpkins might be creating a little shadow, especially along the edges of the truck here, just adding more layers. Look how you can just keep adding layers, and just the layers alone are going to make your painting look higher quality. It's just going to look nicer that way. Even if it's a little doodle, it doesn't have to be super fancy. Okay, look at that. Already we can see the shape of the truck a lot better. So, I mean, I'm just going to go in a little bit more. So I can go in, cut into the edges a little bit better. You're just kind of going smaller and smaller. As you're adding these layers, each layer of shadow is going to take up less and less space because obviously you've already put a layer of color. So if you went and did a shadow and completely covered up the color you've already done, you will just be covering up your work with a darker color. So obviously you're just adding layers of shadow into places, into corners and little nooks and things, but in a smaller space than the shadow that you already had, so that you don't cover up what you've already done. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I think I'm gonna leave it right there for the teal for now. How do you guys like that? Look, we still have some really faint pumpkins to fill in. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing we kind of been doing, but now we're gonna start with our orange. So here's my orange that I was working with earlier. And it's kind of an orange with a little bit of yellow mixed in, if you'll remember. And so we're going to start with this lighter orange. I'm going to water this down just slightly. And try to be really sparing with your water on a painting this small. You really don't need that much. Having a small brush really helps. But what we're going to do is we're just going to outline these pumpkins. I want to keep my orange very warm. I don't want like a true pumpkin orange, actually. I want like a little bit muted orange. So I'm going to add yellow and a tiny bit of brown. That'll keep my orange kind of warm looking. And I'm just going to draw the shapes of these little pumpkins using that brush. Just kind of outlining, especially the dimples. So I'm just kind of almost doing like parentheses shapes back and forth around the little dimples of the pumpkin. That's going to give it like little pumpkin shape, ding ding ding, around here like that. Okay, and then this is so small that it dries really fast. So we're just going to keep working on the pumpkins, layers and layers. So I have about 4 pumpkins that were that lighter orange color. And now I'm going to use my darker kind of reddish color. Oh, Anita says, love it, but mine will be red, LOL. I love that. Yes, so Anita, you will definitely have to show us your red truck when you're done with it. That sounds so fun. Bonnie says it's so pretty. Thank you, Bonnie. I'm super excited that you're enjoying it. I can't wait to see your version. Okay, so I'm going to grab this more rusty colored orange and come back to these other pumpkins and kind of outline them as well. Just outline those little pumpkins. And they're kind of, can you see how they're becoming like one big blob? This is why we want to add layers, because as we add the layers, each individual pumpkin's going to become a little bit more obvious. Okay, so now I've just traced in like 3 of those other pumpkins that are a little bit more red. And now I'm just going to come back to those orange pumpkins. I'm coming back to my orange color. I should have put those next to each other so I didn't have to spin it. And I'm going to add brown to my orange here. You may think brown is kind of a harsh color, but when you add it into a color that already exists, it just kind of mutes it and makes it where you can use it for shading. And basically, to put it very simply, what I'm going to do now is actually outline the pumpkin in a really, really faint way. Let's see, we have 3 people watching, so go ahead and give me a pumpkin in the comments if you're watching right now, just so I can see who's watching, make sure that we're still broadcasting okay. And thank you guys so much for being patient, as Facebook was really weird today. So for this one, super simple. All I'm doing is basically following exactly the tracer lines. Really, really simple. Just follow the tracer lines. And that's just because these pumpkins are so small. We got to give them a little bit more to look at. Our eye isn't going to really go, oh, I mean, you may think, oh, that's a pumpkin, I guess. But If you really want your eye to see it, just outline those tracer lines. That's going to help. And then on the bottom of the pumpkins right now with this brown, I'm giving a good amount of shading at the bottom because they're sitting down in a truck. So the bottom half of the pumpkins is going to be pretty dark. So I'm just using that same brown to give some shading there. And then anywhere I see like little gaps in the truck, I'm going to just color it in with that brown. Okay, so we're outlining this pumpkin too. The little bumps on top, you know, everything that was on your tracer, just outline it with that dark brown. And then give some good shading down at the bottom of that pumpkin. See how that's giving it a little bit more shape? And then we have another little orange pumpkin back here. And as you guys can tell, I really like muted colors. So if you want to go brighter with these pumpkins, go brighter. That's totally fine. Bonnie says she can see. Hi, Kathy. Welcome. I'm so glad you're on here. Yeah, Kathy, it's not, Facebook is not working. Let me just put your thing. Oops. Oh, that was so cute, Bonnie. Look at her thing. And Kathy's watching on YouTube. So welcome, Kathy. I'm so glad you're here. If you didn't see earlier, I'm just going to go ahead and put that link up there. I just posted a link in the comments. So scroll down the comments. That link has the free tracer for today. And every day I'm going to post the tracer on the same link, but it'll be a new tracer each day. So make sure you download today's, because if you don't download it, it'll be gone tomorrow because I'm going to just use the same link. So make sure you download today's and get access to that, and just scroll back in the comments to get that. It's also, I think it's in the description of the video, so you should be able to see that. Kathy, can you tell me how you found out that I'm on YouTube? Did you just find me, or did you get my email this morning? Because the Facebook is being really weird, I'm trying to make sure I know how people found the video today so that I can make sure that that's what I use to remind people. So let me know how you figured out I was here. Mom says pumpkin on YouTube. Okay, so we're just adding this brown in to fill in those ones. And now I'm going to let those orange pumpkins dry, and we're going to come back to these reddish pumpkins. I know they're not really, pumpkins aren't really red, but unless you guys know something I don't know. Does anybody know if there's such a thing as a red pumpkin? But I'm using kind of like a more of a rusty color to paint in these other ones a little bit darker. And that really is going to set those apart so they don't blend in with all the others. Okay, and I'm just adding a little bit of brown, and I already have crimson going on. But I'm adding a little bit of brown to darken this up. And I'm going to do the same thing I just did with those other pumpkins, but with these reddish pumpkins. And then there's only 3, 1, 2, 3 that are going to be this color. So we're going to kind of outline anywhere that those tracer lines were. Remember, I said follow the tracer lines almost exactly. And then on the bottom, we're going to give it good shading because it's sitting down in the truck. We're going to give it good shading down at the bottom. And that's going to make it look like it's sitting down in that truck. Okay, here's another one. I'm just going to outline basically everything that was on your tracer for the shape of the pumpkin. Just outline that pumpkin really well. And this one I'm going to fill in a little bit more color because it's kind of fading into the truck window in the background. So I'm going to give it a little bit more color right here. Let me grab a little bit of water. Bonnie says her husband just texted her that Facebook and Twitter were hacked. Really? That's crazy. So something weird is going on, I guess. Do you know if that's true also for Instagram? Because I was trying to go live on Instagram in lieu of Facebook, and it wasn't letting me. So like I wasn't able, for whatever reason, Instagram kept saying the connection wouldn't register. And I don't have anything wrong with my internet because everything else is working. Obviously YouTube is working. So I don't think it's on my end. So tell me if it was also on Instagram, if you know, if you can find out. And yeah, and Kathy, if you haven't responded yet, go ahead and let me know where you're watching from. And welcome. Thanks for being on. I'm so glad you caught this part of the Doodle a Day. I'm having so much fun with this Doodle a Day, you guys. So much fun. I love to paint small. I don't know why. I think it's just adorable and cute. I have no idea. I started painting small with watercolors. That was my first introduction to watercolors. And I think I just was hooked from then on. But I've painted a lot of bigger things lately, so it's really nice to come back to painting small. Just really fun for me. Okay, so look at all those little pumpkins shapes starting to happen. Now I'm just going to use this same, so kind of the same rusty color, but I'm going to add black to it. And I'm going to outline pretty dark those pumpkins because I want them to really have some definition. So basically getting a pretty dark brown going here with my black. And I've said this before on my lives, but not on the Doodle a Day. But I almost never use straight black. So you'll notice I'm like, okay, grab black, but really it's like black mixed with whatever color I was just using. Because in reality, there's almost no true blacks out there. They're always like a faded color or, a dark, dark blue or a dark, dark purple or something. So even when I'm using really dark shadows, I'm almost never using a black. So what I'm doing now is I'm basically drawing little teeny triangles between each of the pumpkins. And that's to create shadow that's going to make it so you can see the bottom curves of those pumpkins. So you basically, watch my finger, you're doing a shape like this. Like that. So kind of a triangle. But it's going to go underneath the edge of each of those little pumpkins. And it'll help show the shape of those pumpkins. So see where I'm drawing that? And I'm going to go even darker, just a little bit darker on this black. And come in those little creases because there's a big pile of pumpkins and it's creating a lot of shadow. I'm even going to do it along the edge of this truck here. This pumpkin's kind of resting up along the truck. Go up along the bottom of the pumpkins. And kind of in all their little dimples and things. And that is going to be what's going to separate these pumpkins so that you can see them really clearly. So just like that. See how that, just a little bit. And now look, they're separated. They're separated. I'm going to get a little bit more black. And now I'm just going to, I just noticed, as I'm drawing this, the bottom edge of this truck bed here needs to be smoothed out. So I'm just going to use that same dark color. And real carefully go along the edge. You could use a micron pen for this if you want to. That's a little bit of a fine line to be doing if you don't really trust your steady hand. So feel free to switch and use a pen if you'd like to. Oh, Bonnie says Instagram as well. Wow, that's crazy. I can't even imagine. I'm surprised YouTube isn't affected. That seems really strange. If both of those are affected and YouTube isn't, that's really odd. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and, yeah, thanks, Bonnie, for letting us know. That's really wild. I'm going to use the same dark color to come in between the pumpkins that are sitting further back. So just doing those same kind of like triangle shapes almost, and kind of coming up along the edges of these pumpkins and drawing their shapes. So if you want to keep it simple, yet again, you're just kind of following where the tracer lines are. And that's going to help separate those pumpkins one from the next. Okay, so just kind of look at that. Look how just a little tiny bit. It's just a little bitty, itty bitty, not a lot. And there's our little pumpkins. Look at that. Isn't that cool? I think that's so cool. It doesn't take a lot, just a little bit, and there it is. All right. Painting small is fun, you guys. I love it. I love it so much. Okay, so here's our little pumpkins, and I'm going to use the same brown, and we are going to finish up these pumpkins with their little stems. If you notice, we haven't drawn their stems yet. And so just paint those in, real simple. Paint those in. You can just color them in exactly as the tracer draws them. You can leave a little white space if you'd like to. You don't have to. But they're all real simple little shapes, just like little knobs and things at the top. So just fill those in. Super quick and simple on all of those. And just make sure you get all of them because there are several pumpkins here. And that is really going to help your eye start to see the little stack of pumpkins. Look at that. Look at the little stack of pumpkins. Isn't that cute? Look how cute. I think that's adorable. I'm just saying. Let's see. Bonnie says it is wild. It is wild. Are you talking about the whole like Facebook thing, or are you talking about this truck? Anita says, my fine brush fell in my porch, so I have to get a new one. Oh, Anita, I remember that. Are you talking about when it fell while we were live? That was so sad. That was so sad. That's so sad. YouTube, do you have one you can trim the bristles? Oh. Yeah, Anita, Mom is asking if you have one that you can trim the bristles on. And I've done that before, but it also just depends on, like, frankly, how's bad, how small you really need it to be and how bad the brush is to start with. I don't know. It depends. But yeah, that is one idea. All right, so we're going to take our gray and we're going to finish up with these little tires on this truck. I'm going to take this gray and we're just going to give it another layer. I'm not sure how dark I'm going to go with these tires, but I know I've put all this dark here, so I definitely need to come darker on these tires over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and add some shading, a little bit more around the edges. And I might just go ahead and let the bottom be darker rather than the side, although this side looks like it should be darker. I guess we'll see as we go. Okay, so just adding layers. I'm going to grab some more black, mix it in, and my black is pretty much brown. I don't know if you guys can tell. It's really not black. It's actually brown. And I'm going to add another layer. Normally I wouldn't go in that quickly with another layer of color because I would wait for it to dry. And actually I am waiting for it to dry, but because it is so small, it dries really fast. So just know if this was a bigger painting, we'd have to wait a little longer before coming in with the next layer. So look at that. That's gonna, yeah, I like the dark on that one side like that. I'm gonna come in and do a little bit of a circle kind of thing in the middle of the fender. Maybe try to give it a little bit more detail there. I don't know if I love that shape. I'm going to lift some of that off. There we go. Okay, so just a little bit more going on there. And now I'm going to grab my smallest brush, coming back in with really dark blackish gray again. And here's the part where I want to define the lines just a little bit better. I'm going to come along the edge of that tire. Make sure that tire is a tire shape. I'm even going to come along the bottom there, give it a little shading like that. And then on the front as well, do this one, outline it. And again, we're using this darkest color to basically follow the tracer lines. So just follow your tracer lines. And it's like you're outlining, only we don't want a real crisp outline. So, make sure you're fading it into things a little bit better. And look, that dark black is pulling down the black from the pumpkins, that real dark color that we used on the pumpkins. So it's making it much more balanced as a painting. If we'd left those tires really light, you'd be like, why is that so light? And you may not know that's what's wrong with it, but your eyes will definitely see it. Okay, and I especially want to put a little dark like underneath where I know the fenders are going to create a shadow. So kind of up underneath the truck there, up underneath this bumper. And to do fine lines like this, your brush needs to be a little bit more wet so it can just glide across the page. I'm going to do one up underneath this fender here and up underneath this fender here. Just make sure you've got, reasonable shading there. So that makes sense to your eyeball. And then I'm even going to do a little bit just along the edge of this little fender. Mom says, I love this truck. And Bonnie's not seeing any of the shares. I'm not sure what she's doing. Oh, okay. And Anita says, yes, where we were live. Not sure about that, Denise. Oh, okay. Yeah, so also, guys, I wanted to let you guys know what we're doing tonight in case any of you guys don't know about it. But there is a new movie out in the Christian community. It's out in, for anybody to watch, but the Christian community is really excited about it, obviously. And it is called God's Not Dead #4. If you haven't seen God's Not Dead, 1, 2, and 3. Those are great. They cover a lot of issues that we're kind of facing in the world today, especially with Christianity in the schools and things like that. But I just found out there's a number 4. My favorite movie is number 2 of that series. I actually would recommend that if you don't watch any of them, just watch number 2. It's fantastic. It has a really cool, super intense court case that's fun to watch if you like legal shows. And then they just cover like a teacher in the schools and kind of things that she goes through as a Christian. But this one is going to cover homeschool families and also, just parents having a say in their kids' education and that kind of thing. And I don't really know if it's good or not because I haven't seen it yet. But we are watching the showing of it at the theater, and we'll be watching that very soon. And I'm excited about it because, regardless of whether that movie itself in particular is good, I love that public theaters are showing Christian films. I just love that. And so we try to encourage that, and we try to see all of them, even if we don't particularly like it, or if it's, maybe not the best movie we've ever seen. We always go out and see it. And we've been pleasantly surprised. Most of the ones we've seen, we've really enjoyed. So anyway, if you see that show is happening in your area, maybe go and support whoever is the one encouraging those shows to be played at your local theater. And, just encourage the people who are making those films. There's people that are using their talents of filmmaking and acting and even their finances and all of that to create films that we can say are clean. We don't need to have, language and stuff, and we can play them for our children. And even if you're not a Christian, just having a clean film that you can play for your child is almost unheard of these days. So I would just encourage you to go see those. And oftentimes, if you look online, Bonnie says, wow, I love that movie. I didn't know there was a number 4. I know. Did you even know there was a number 3? We almost missed the number 3. So I'm so surprised. And a lot of times if you go and see one of those movies or you buy a ticket for them, there's an option to get on a email list. And I'm not big on doing email lists all the time because, it bogs down your email. But I would highly recommend you do get on their email list, whatever it is, whatever film it is, because they will tell you about new, clean movies coming out that you can go see with your family in the theater and have a great theater experience without having to walk out of a movie. I walked out of a movie just 2 or 3 weeks ago because I couldn't watch it. And I almost walked out of another one because it was so bad. And both of those were not bad ratings. They were supposed to be good family movies. And so, so just having those clean movies in the theater, I'm so, so thrilled that they play them. And so that's my 2 cents. Go ahead and encourage those filmmakers to keep making movies. We really appreciate that we can just go to the theater and not have to worry about it. So, anyway, so we're going to do that very soon. Check that one out. Bonnie says she almost missed number 3. Yeah, I almost missed it too. Number 3 I thought it was okay. The message was okay. I just didn't think it was my favorite out of all of them. My favorite movie was number 2. It was so good, and I've watched it a lot of times. I think we own it now. And it just was such a good movie. God's Not Dead, number 2. Okay, I'm taking the black so that you guys can follow along. I'm taking the black and I'm outlining my little lights here. And I think I'm going to give them some kind of color. I just haven't decided what yet. Probably, I don't really want to give them red. I just feel like, even though I know that's the color they are, sometimes it's harsh with the painting. So I actually think I'll go somewhat red, but I think I'm going to go more rusty color. So a real light rusty color. So I'm going to go with that crimson. I don't really have rust in my palette, a rust color in my palette. So I kind of have to make my own. So that's a combination of crimson and then orange and a little bit of brown. I'll lean a little bit more toward crimson. I don't need a lot of it, so I won't take a lot. Okay, so just a little bit. And I'm just going to touch these lights with color and leave a little highlight in the middle of them so they don't look strange. I'm going to give it just a little bit of a darker layer. There we go. See, there we go. We got lights, but it's not like, whoa, what are those lights doing? Alrighty, y'all. This is it for today. So this is our day 3 of a doodle a day. And here's our fun little truck that we just finished. I am super thrilled with this little truck. I'm going to back this camera up and show it to you in line up with the other doodle a days. Oops, backing up. Here we go. And I'm going to show it to you with our acorns from day 1 and our umbrella and boots from day 2. If you missed the umbrella and boots, just a reminder, I'm not going to actually be live on Sundays, but you will see a picture and a tracer for that day so that you can continue to follow along. But look at that lineup. I just think that is super cute. And as you can see, we've added one more color, which is turquoise. So let me ask you guys again, how many of you remember the doodle a day from Christmas time? And I just have a real quick thing to say, and then I'll jump off. But if you remember the doodle a day from Christmas time, you might remember that we had a color scheme as well. And I transitioned between paintings that had no red in them to a painting that had a lot of red in it. So or a painting that didn't have a lot of red. So it was like mainly red painting to almost no red, then mainly red painting, almost no red. And then we put it up on the advent calendar board and it looked very cohesive. So what we're going to do with this one is we're going to incorporate turquoise every so often. And it'll just be this same shade of turquoise, which is why I tried not to change the color out of my palette too much so that I know I can go back to it consistently. But what that'll do is as we look at all these side by side, you'll see the same fall colors throughout. And that's really important when you're doing a project like that. Alrighty, so that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Go out and watch a great Christian movie if you have it in your area. I'm so glad you enjoyed this truck. Make sure you watch for my posts. If Facebook comes up again, I'm going to have the tracer available. If I don't, I'll send it out through email. So if you're watching right now and you aren't already on my email list, if you download the tracer, you'll be added to the email list, and then I will see you and I'll be able to send it to you. So go ahead and download the tracer, and you'll have access to all of the tracers ahead of time before we get into the doodle a day every day. And join me every day this month, except for Sundays, to do a doodle a day for October for the Doodle a Day challenge. Alrighty, I've enjoyed it. God bless you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.